Hello, hello, and welcome to another episode of Be Calais. Thank you so much for being here on this day. Thank you for tuning in. I appreciate it. You could be listening to anyone on else today, but you are here and it is greatly appreciated. So, here on the Be Click podcast, we are journeying of learning how to just be molded, not to fight the potter's will, but just be molded. You are on the journey with me as we are continuing to learn. Baby, first of all, we are still in 2024, right? I will recap in just a moment. But as we are journeying through 2026, in a way, I almost can't wait to get to 2026 because especially as I'm looking back throughout the years, for the most part, I've been looking back throughout the most of the years as I'm journeying into 2026 because there's a lot that I'm really learning why, like, okay, so now I see why God had me go through this. Now I see why I have got, okay, that makes a little bit more sense. Now I see, so yeah, but we're not there yet, but I'm gonna get there. It's going to be exciting though. I'm gonna let you know that right now. I don't know when we're going to get there, but I'm going to get there. So we are in 2024, and I did tell you guys that this may be multiple parts. 2024 was an eye-opener, should I say, maybe. That's what I may call it. We're going to call it for right now. At least the first half, at least 2024 was an eye-opener. As much as an eye-opener I thought 2023 was, when I told you 2023 was basically the demolition of the idea of who I thought I was, right? The false reality of who I was, the false Elisa. 2024 was definitely an eye-opener. So let's recap. So we're going to start off. So 2023, like I said, it was a demolition. And I explained to you guys that every year basically was, especially those last months of the year, was definitely preparation for the new year. I did not get any breaks. There was no gaps. It basically started off January 1st, okay? And so here we are, January. I explained in January, but what I didn't mean that in March of 2024, I lost someone very close to me, and it was a struggle. Okay, it was a struggle. At the same time, trying to, and then you know what? Let's go back because. So I told you everything starts right away in January. So in January, I told you there were some things that was happening. And I actually saw this person that passed away in March and January. And I remembering, now I haven't been around this person for a little bit because I was in a place, I was in a bad place for a very long time. And so I only, spoke to them through social media basically and things like that here and there. And now I remember when I went there, when I saw her, and I was like, okay, I'm good. Like, I was so proud of myself in January 2024 because I got to the place where I was like, okay, I should be good now because, I have did some healing and I should be good, and not knowing that should be going 2 months later. So, and it really was like a little bit less than 2 months, right? But that was hard. And so with that being said, again, it was an eye opener because dealing with the grief of losing her and with a whole lot of things that was happening. It was coming on at once. Remember, in 2023, we was demolition of false self. So that false self was still there. That false self, it was, I still had to learn I just learned parts of, which was false and which was me and was not really me. And so I still was learning what it was. And so, and I told you that God had told me that everything you touch you're going to fail. And it's designed for you to fail. It was designed for me to fail just so that I can learn even the more. So as I'm moving through 2024 and grieving and what the grief looked like, the response that I get from other people and things like that, which is something I did have to learn, because one thing that even the false person, what brought up the false person was based on what other people say who I was, think who was. I basically shaped myself. Remember I told you I shaped myself to who was going to be more acceptable. So it always went off of what people think about me, right? Things they think about me because that's what they say, or things they think about me because I just assume because of other things, right? So what I wear, what I do, my hair, all these different, every part of me was, okay, so what can I do to not look crazy or whatever the case may be? How can I do this? It's been like that because, again, I was shaping myself to be what I felt was going to be more acceptable by the mass majority of the environment that I was in. And so we have to dive deep into why. And so the why was these attachment. Okay, now I explained to you that I am the disorganized attachment. Okay, and I've learned that about the attachment through the breakup of B. Simone and Megan Ashley. Love you guys. But they went their separate ways, and in them going separate ways, of course, they're because of they're in this, because of who they are, everybody's going to make videos of everything in everybody's life, because that's the type of era we live in, right? So, but this one helped me out because this person did not just, oh my God, it was just because B is selfish and blah, blah, blah. He wasn't giving it to none of that stuff like that. He basically was breaking down that this was something, basically was two attachment theories, attachment styles that are come together that eventually is going to break up because of the fact of the attachment. And until they both get to a place where they need to get to, this was like basically inevitable, right? And so when he actually was explaining the attachment, like the anxious attachment and the avoidant attachment, and he did not explain the disorganized attachment. But after learning, because even when he was explaining both of them, even though he was explaining both of them, I realized that I was both in different areas. So basically, when you are disorganized attachment theory, which they call now avoidant fearful, but I like the disorganized better. You're depending on your environment, one is more dominant than the other. And so depending on the relationship, one was more dominant than the other. And so for those, just to do a quick overview of what attachment styles, you can look it up. I'm actually supposed to I'm going to make sure I put some videos under just for those who want to know. If you need to know exactly what some of these things that I utilize to help me to get to where I need to get to, just let me know. So you have the anxious, who basically has the, one, that is going to do whatever they need to do so that you won't leave me. This is the one who basically was abandoned as a child, and just know that, and then not just abandoned, but because they were abandoned, they just something happened where they just said, oh, they left because I'm no good, right? Or something. It was something that I have done to allow you to leave. And so they grow up in that an environment where they always feel like everyone's going to leave because of them. So they grow up feeling as though I have to do whatever it takes for people not to leave me. So they are very high with the codependency, people pleasing, and because that's where they find a sense of identity. If you need me, you won't leave me, basically, right? You and your triggers. There's a lot of triggers with them. Okay, they don't know how the communication is janky sometimes. And they're very sensitive to just about almost everything. Okay, because if it looks like you about to leave, they triggered. Okay, if it feels like you about to leave, if you become a little distant, they triggered. So with the avoidant, right, and more so like they're avoidant and more so like dismissive. There's different parts of avoidant, but you got the dismissive avoidant where basically at first they they want a relationship, they want closeness, they want intimacy. And I'm not just talking about necessarily, we're not just talking about relationships as far as like romantic relationships, we're talking about even with friendships, right? They want the closeness, they want all of that, but at the same time, they cannot trust it. These are the ones who grew up that realize that, if they express their emotions, then they was looked at like something is wrong with them. Like, don't do that, don't cry, things like that. So they don't know how to really express their emotions. And the only person that they really can depend upon is themselves. Everybody let them down, so they only could depend on themselves. And so what they do is they start off in the relationship and, everything is going, and after a while, they're, oh my God, this is getting too close, this is getting too much. You know what? Let me back out. Okay? They be always ready to back out. And because this is not real. Right? This is not real. Something that, something's about to happen, and then they're going to leave you, and then you're going to leave you stuck to deal with your emotions again. And you remember you're not great at emotions because someone told you that having emotions is wrong with you. And something's wrong with you, right? You're not supposed to cry. You're not supposed something that mostly cry. Like, you're not supposed to be vulnerable. Being vulnerable is wrong. That's crazy. That's bad. It's taboo. Right? So your triggers, there's the triggers now being a dismissed, being a disorganized, you both of them at the same time. You are always ready to fight and you're always ready to flight. All the time. Every time. Triggers, it's like, oh God, everything triggers you. Basically, all right? It's exhausting. Like, to be honest, I'd rather be one or the other. I don't know which one I would rather be if I was going to be one of the two, but everything triggered me. Everything. Now, I'm telling you, for those that knows me, and this is bringing me to 2024 because in April, I think it was in March, but mostly like April, when I learned about it, like when I was introduced by the YouTuber who was breaking down B. Simone and Megan Ashley's breakup, and after that I began using more, dive deeper into more, on YouTube University and listen to other people and things like that. And then that's when I learned. I said, because I was like, I'm both. I knew that I was both when he was explaining it, because I said, and when I was bawling, it was because it was one relationship, but I realized I was more of the anxious person, and they explained to me why things were where they were and my behaviors and what I was doing in that relationship. But I began to see other relationships where, whether it was with my sister and whether it was with other people, where I was an avoidant. So I'm like, I'm both. And then I learned about that. But there's attachment style that I didn't bring up, which is the one that I was like, oh, we got to get there, which is secure. That means you have a healthy balance of your emotions. You have a healthy balance in your relationships. There was very minimal to triggers because you understand that I don't have to people please, for people to stay here. Like, if they go, I'm good. Like, I'm okay if people leave. I'm okay if people get close to me. It's okay. And then if they do something and then it's wrong, I'm still okay. No matter what, I'll be okay. These I'm not gonna say I haven't had met that many people secure. I'm not gonna say that. But a secure attachment style was not something that was not in my upbringing. I could tell you that for the most part. At least I haven't seen it. There's those who pretend to be secure, and they weren't, and they was tell themselves they are, but in reality, that's just because they didn't really want to deal with the parts that there's not. So, yeah. So these people have their behaviors and things. It's okay. They'll be okay, and that's where I was kept saying I got to get secure by tomorrow. That's what I say. I need to be secure by tomorrow. Like, I can't stay here. And I told you guys, the Lord knew that I need to have 6 kids because that made me think and catapult me into getting healed, because I said, we can't stay here. I got 6 babies. I have 6 generations. We can't stay here. As I begin to learn these things, I had a meeting with my children, like, you know what, guys, I'm sorry. I didn't understand. Now I understand. And I started explaining to them and everything else. I was apologizing for like these last whatever years each I had each child, but it's okay. We here now. We about to keep it moving. At that time, my oldest was already 24. So he already finished his first year of college. And I think he was just home for a little bit, right? So, but, and I was just like, listen, I messed you up. I messed you up to this time, but we can keep it moving, right? You want to go to the Lord, just I need to go to the Lord, right? And for the rest of you guys who I'm still raising, I'm going to now raise you of how to be secure. And so, but not just secure, but secure in God. And so actually the thought of this podcast came in May. Was it May? It was in May because, first of all, during this time frame, each area that I was in, especially in 2024, I saw myself really, really expressing to people around me, not necessarily on purpose, but, people were asking questions, and so I was giving them the answer. And telling them where I was and where I am now, especially because at that time, like I said, not only, let me tell you something. In 2024, not only was I not relearning who Elisa really is, but I literally, and not only in 2023 was a demolition of oneself as who Elisa is, but there was also the demolition of the role of a female. We will get into that because that is a whole series for women. But I'm telling you, baby, like the Lord was like, whatever, all this, you see what you learned, throw it all away. All that's wrong. And it was not. When I tell you that instruction, that was part of this. That was the introduction. So was one of the introductions. So we won't get into all of that, I promise, because that right there. And so as I was going through these things and whatever, every point of it, I saw myself talking to other people, especially females, and at work and things. And it was like, girl, what's going on? And I was like, I need to write a book. I was like, you need to write a book. You need to get a podcast, something like that. Now, I did decide to do I actually had a YouTube channel already, so I decided to go back to a YouTube channel, and the YouTube channel was going to be how to become secure in God, because I didn't see no one talking about how to become secure in God. Secure, yes, but we talk about secure in God, meaning I don't have to stay here because, not just I have to stay here because, because people who not, atheists and all them, they feel like they don't need to stay here because it's not healthy and things like that. But I don't need to stay here because I know who my God is. And that's the thing. I don't have to stay. That's why I say I need to be secure by tomorrow, because I know who my God is. I know who he is, and I know what he can do. So, baby, let's go, God. We out. Let's go. We in this thing. Let's go. So, with that being said, I was immediately tested Thank you, Holy Spirit, because He reminded me even the things I'm going through now. Of course, you're going to be immediately tested. Okay, immediately tested. You think you right, God. So, with all that being said, before I start crying, in May, I told you I bowl, right? So in May, every May we go. It's a tournament that I do. And so this tournament was in Chicago. And when I said I was tested in every area of my life, I was tested immediately. And I'm talking about to the core. But I was welcoming the test, right? It wasn't easy. It was very hard. It was very hard because it wasn't just, let me see, how should I put it? It was me, the test, I'm trying to figure out. Okay. So I am both, right? Let's just start from there. So I'm both, right? So I'm a fight or flight. One of the biggest things, like the people pleasing, like, and that codependency, one, it can look like that's a strong suit where it's like I have to be trustworthy. People have to depend upon me. That's one of the things, right? People have to be able to depend upon me because if you need me, then you won't leave me. However, there was a very strong suit where it wasn't just you needed me, but in some areas I was enabling a lot. So, because I was so invested with everybody else and I was so, because I was the one that took care of everything. The other person decided, or the other people, whatever, how many parties, and they just like, you know what, she got it. I don't need to do anything. And so in my codependency, in my the people pleasing, in those areas, remember I told you, no one never asked me, for the most part, in majority of my relationships, and I'm talking about family, friends, co-workers, whatever case may be, to some degree, no one never really asked me, Alisa, are you okay? No one really asked if Alisa, like, whatever. So it was, because leading up to me learning about detachment theories, I was crying. I was struggling because of that one particular thing. And I was saying, I have insecurities too. I have anxieties too. Like, there are things that I have triggers too, but I was always worrying about someone else's. Always. So I won't say certain things because this might trigger them. And I know what triggered them. I won't do certain things because this won't. Like, you get what I'm saying? Like, I was always worrying, like, really, really, heavily worrying about everybody else, putting extra work to make sure that they are okay and forget about me. But at the same time, I just wished that one time that someone would think about me for real. Now, I'm saying I was tested because in May, actually, like this timing, there was something going on with me and both my sisters, and there were some things that they was bringing up, and it just pissed me off. Like, it literally pissed me off. And then also because there was someone that I work with that reminded me of one of my sisters, it really, I was struggling, and I knew that, and I actually. No, later on. But it was really, I was trying to figure something out, and I realized that it had to be something in me because I shouldn't feel this way. I actually had to really pray, because I was at the point where I was like, I think I hate my sister. Like, it was bad. And there were some things, but it's always because everybody was always thinking about me, because they're so used to me taking care of them. But I have issues too, and I need to. And I got 6 babies. Like, I felt like at the end of the day, I should have been the more people more worried about and agree, because I have all these kids and things going on. So, yeah. So the testing was really learning how that I'm okay if I'm not the one that everybody leans on. And so that was hard, because I've been so used to, even still hard today, because I'm so used to being everybody's go-to person for everything, for advice, for this. Even though if you don't ask me for advice, because I'm gonna give you the truth, and people don't like the truth, so don't ask me. Like, be honest with you, do not ask me, because one of the things so I'm gonna bring up one of the biggest things that, and so I'm gonna say, so my sister said something to me, which I learned this already. And this is why I tell you that I'm the fight or flight, right? Because if I feel like I'm in a place where, again, I'm both. So if I feel like I was in a place where I'm causing something, right? I told you that I will leave you before you leave me, because I got to savor whatever relationship is. A lot of times also, if I feel like I'm not the one, like some people, they don't know that they actually, like, if the relationship is not working, they don't realize that they're the reason why that the relationship's not working. They're the ones that blame everybody else, but they don't understand they're the most offensive part of the relationship. And so, because if it looks like I'm offending you in some way, and it could be offending just because of my walk with God, period, right? Then I will walk away. I will move away first. Or if I feel like that, something, whatever, if it just feel uneasy and it may be me, I'll move myself away, because I never wanted to be that person who just sit there thinking everybody likes her. To be honest, I felt like no one really likes me. People just around me because I'm good over, like because of who I am. And I fight for people. I don't care if I met you one day. Once I met you and I see like something, whatever, I'm a fight for you. It's whatever. So those are good qualities that I have. And so they would like to stay around me just for those benefits, right? So, but they don't mean they really like me. They just want the benefits. At this point, I never thought that people, like I'm telling you, even when I not just started the podcast 2 months ago, and I had got a great response, and I was surprised. I just assumed that, when I start this podcast, I'm just going to be doing this, and then, it was going to be what's going to be, and everyone's going to say, yeah, I'm going to listen to you, but I never expected no one to actually do anything for me, because I was used to nobody really doing anything for me. Like, I was used to people, I just was not really used to people really being there for Elisa, because Elisa always got it together as far as they concerned. And the way they thought that if I didn't have together, that's not even what it is. So I'm going to say this because my sister expressed to me that they will lie to me or not really say certain things to me because, Lisa, you always leaving. But if I felt, and that's to say, why do you think I'm leaving? Like, you don't think that maybe you should look at your side or your part in the relationship of why I'm leaving? So like, if you're doing something, and I be peeping that beforehand, so I leave so that you won't be doing that. Like, why would I stay in a relationship or stay in a position in this relationship if the only way for us to be in this relationship, you gotta lie to me? Does that make any sense? So since instead of you figure out why you have to lie to me, you rather just continue to lie. I'm not going to allow you to put yourself in a position to keep lying to me. I might as well just leave, right? But when I leave myself from the situation or from the relationship, people were getting mad at me. And I couldn't understand why. And that's why I said when I'm talking, so I really had to dig deep of, because that was a big thing. Like, what are you getting mad at me for leaving to make things easier for you guys? And then, like, at the same time, did anyone think that that's, that's the main reason why I leave, because you're lying to me, or you won't say certain things, or whatever, like your behaviors. Like, anyone ever think that? I have triggers too. Do you understand what that really triggers for me? And so I have anxieties too, and that's why I just kept saying, like, you're not, oh, I knew this. You didn't know because you don't know me. And that's when I really understood that my family really did not know me, because I kept these triggers and everything, all these things inside me, and I never spoke on it. I just was make sure, Lisa, you got it. Every time something big happened, like when my dad left, it was like, Lisa, you ain't got time to think about yourself. You got to be there for your mom, and you got to be there for your sisters. You can't do that. So how they feel about your daddy leaving, how they gonna, all those. So that's what so I was always ready to put myself on the back burner and always, be there for everybody else, right? You got to be the man of the house. Remember, I told you that, Now, before, you knew that your dad was leaving because you knew that before. That's why you had to start saying that you was going to be the man in the house. But now you actually have to be active in this role. Like, these are the things I have to be the one. You got to take care of everybody. You got to do it. You got to do it. You have to do it. You have to do it, because they don't know what to do. But at the end of the day, they had to figure it out. And so this is where I had to learn. It was the reality check for me. Testing, and, where my mindset come from, where the behavior comes from. And I'm saying, like, even in Chicago, I was tested. And I was telling one of my friends, they was upset at the way someone did something. I said, no, I needed this to happen, because remember, I told you I'm trying to be secure. One of my triggers is, the way people look at me. And, I just assume that, especially a male factor, because I'm not allowed to make a mistake. Remember, I told you that's how I grew up. So, if it looks like I'm making a mistake, if it looks like all of that, then I just can't. But I needed all of that to happen, because we trying to be secure. And so every part of why I think the way, why I do what I do was testing. Okay, so why you think like this? Where this come from? And so that was a testing period for me. It was May and June was deep. Like, I had to literally say, you know what, I'm done. And I had to stop talking to my sister at that, because at the same time, both of them actually, I had to stop talking to them. I think I actually, even that time, I think maybe later in the summer, but around that time, had to limit my conversation either with my mama, because at the end of the day, one, because as me trying to be secure, all the reasons of why I'm where I am was like flooding, right? And then I had to remind myself that they don't know. They didn't know what was going on literally in my mind. They didn't understand they really did not understand my triggers. So later on, they began to understand, because I began to express it. But up until then, all this was coming to the surface of why I take care of everybody, but why didn't you never? But it was also at sometimes wishing that you just say, well, what about Elisa? So just like my dad, right? So my dad, when I was in high school and I was in 9th grade, a lot was going on. Okay, I moved in with my daddy, and to go to the school that you only allowed to go if you lived in the area, and there was a thing between my mom and my dad with that, right? Long story short, and at first things was okay, but I went through, it's high school. Let's just be honest, it's high school, so I went through stuff being the new person. Because it wasn't just new as a freshman, but it was new in this area. Everybody, you're in the outskirts. First of all, I was in the outskirts of Philly, so everybody in the outskirts of Philly is on like one high school or one high school in the area, one elementary, and maybe two elementaries, but it's one middle. But it's not like Philly. In Philly, there's like 15, 20 high schools. You know what I'm saying? There's like 30 high schools, 30 middle schools, 30 elementary schools. So if you new to that school, you new to the school. But here, if you're new to this school, you're not just new to the school, you're new to the whole everything. And so I had to deal with that. And it wasn't the best, again, because it's high school. So let's just leave it at that. So with all that being said, one thing I realized is that when the parents, listen, this is not, please, parents of that generation, please listen. If you're listening to me, please have an open ear to this, what I'm about to say. And I say that because I talk to a lot of people who are my age or my decade, whatever, and we say the same thing. Our parents, it's like y'all forgot that we're human beings as well, right? You forgot that. You just thought that because we're kids, this is what it seemed like. That just because we're kids, we don't go through anything, but we do, right? When you go to school, you still go through stuff. There's still emotions. There's still a lot of things that you have to deal with, whatever. School is school, because you're in school with other human beings and other kids, and kids can be mean. And because they got other stuff they're going through at home and everything else. Y'all went to school. I don't know what happened. I'm not saying, and I figured that y'all went through things too. And your parents did the same thing maybe. And that's why you did the same thing when it comes to us. But baby, I can't do that. I don't do that to mine, because at the end of the day, I remember y'all human beings as well. Y'all go through things. It matters when your friend not talking to you. It matters when you come in and you, like, all that stuff matters. It matters with grades and with you, like, all this stuff matters to you. And so a lot of things happened to me in ninth grade. And I was just going through it again because no one never really asked Elisa what is wrong. And Elisa is just used to figuring it out on her own. She's the only person that she really could deal with because no one really asked, hey, Elisa, this don't look like you. What's going on? Are you okay? Like, no one really asked those questions. They didn't really ask those questions. They just assumed I had it. And for the most part, because I feel like no one's going to ask me, or no one can really relate to where I am, I just kept it moving like that. And I was functional for the most part. But I think at this, and I really was functional for the most part. Throughout most of my life, I was functional as much as I needed to be. And so I just kept on. But now it's like I don't want to be functioning in that disarray like that. I don't want to be functioning and everything's always a trigger. I did not want to stay here. So just like in ninth grade, where the first half of ninth grade, okay, like I was functioning. But then the last half of ninth grade, well, I guess the latter half of the latter part of the last half of ninth grade. That's what I'm trying to say. So in ninth grade, we had 2 semesters. So it was just like college. So the first part of, I guess what you would call my spring semester of ninth grade, I was okay. But the last half, I wasn't. And because of the back and forth that I was going through with my mother and my father about me living with my father. And I remember asking the question, hello, does anyone care how this is affecting me? Like, I remember I never asked them that question because I knew, so what I understand, like, if I asked that question, I wouldn't have got an answer to that. The answer the response would have been, we don't care. So I never asked it. But that's what I was used to, right? I was used to no one really understanding whatever you do and don't do, your decisions, your responses, this may affect Elisa in a negative way. I was used to people not really, and if they thought about it, at least it was not expressed so that I can understand and know that you actually thought about me in that way, that this might affect her and that I need to figure it out so that it won't affect her this bad. Am I making sense, you guys? So now that I'm grown, I'm still operating in that. No one really cares about you, Elisa. No one really cares about your struggles, your insecurities, your anxieties, and that you're triggered every single day. Because in the end, and now I was, like when I said, the reason why is it, because these are the things I felt all along, but I didn't know how to approach God with it. And so now I had the knowledge of how to come to the prayer and say, listen, God, I'm realizing I'm being triggered, right? These things are triggers. Like I said, May was testing because now I'm learning what is actually a trigger, right? Everything, why I act the way I act, why I'll do it, these are triggering. So what is it triggering? It's triggering this part of me. It's triggering that, you got, these are the things, this is what, so what part of you or what part of this is it, are these things triggering? And so this is why I'm saying, when we're in this healing journey, you have to be willing. Again, my last episode was talking about you have to be willing to understand that maybe the person I thought that I was is not who I really am. That I was just operating and functioning of one person that was always triggered, or these in triggers, that I just created this person around, like I created a person around this, and I just assumed that's who I am. And no, that's not who you were. You were just triggered. You were triggered, and you learned how to function in your triggers. I learned how to function to a degree in my triggers. I still was getting A's in my triggers. I still was going to church with a trigger. I still was preaching. I still was singing. I still was doing all these things with these triggers. And so now God was still, he was using me, and I was doing this and that and the other, but there still were things that was triggering. And a lot of times, not that he wasn't trying to do, because he could, he's gone, he can heal everything. He sure can. If you give it to him, I didn't give it to him because I didn't even realize what I needed to give. Like, even when we say, God, I surrender all, we really don't, we surrender all. We say it, but we really don't surrender all. And I'm even saying that in regards to like what I'm dealing with now, where the Lord asked me a question this weekend. Even it was just like, Elisa, like, what? And I said, God, well, what do you want me to do? Because I just can't. This, like, what? Like, I don't know what you want from me. And He said, just trust me. And I was like, God, like, you serious? Like, like, you understand what I'm saying? We say things like, I am going to give it to you, but in reality, I still knew, and I felt myself holding it back, because I felt like this is the end for me. Like, this is the end for me. I'm about to just give up because this is ridiculous. I'm just so tired. But when you surrender everything to Him, you surrendering everything to Him, withholding nothing. And so even though I was functioning, or think I was functioning, right? I really wasn't functioning, and I really wasn't giving Him everything, and I was withholding a lot, right? And so, this time I was testing on every area, learning what exactly was my triggers, and that was one of the main things. Was Elisa got anxiety too? Did you ever ask me? Do you think that's what, even with them thinking, my sisters thinking that they was actually helping me, didn't even understand that it was actually triggering me. That right there is a trigger. That right there is like, this is why I need to stay away. Like that, they didn't understand that was actually triggering even the more so. Their actions, their reactions, their responses, those, we're just not going to tell Elisa this because she's going to leave. I'm leaving anyway. Like, the fact, you get what I'm saying? You're actually pushing me away to leave, right? And then they get mad. No, that triggers me to leave. I'm not going to stay here with that, right? I was getting upset, and I was mad. Like, you didn't say this. Like, I was pissed off when I was hearing those things. It's like, y'all didn't even think. that means y'all don't even pay attention. You don't study me enough to know, right, what is actually my trigger. You just take whatever is your triggers and assume that's my triggers. And that's not my triggers, right? So, but again, so even like I said, bring it back to like ninth grade where my dad, because my grades was going down, and I'm only bringing this up again because we're talking about triggers, right? So this is one of the core wounds of why I'm always ready to leave. Why I feel like, Lisa, you're the only one that you can depend upon. Because when my grades began to slip, now, not excluding the fact that I was going through a lot, but when my grades was slipping, my dad never asked the question, "Are you okay?" And that's all I asked. That's all I was wanting for him to do. I was, at that time, I remember, like, if he went in his in his talks that we about to have about why my grades are slipping, that he's going to ask me, "Are you okay?" Because he should know me, right? He knows that I'm a straight A student. So if my grades are slipping and my grades are where they are, that's not who you are, then something is going wrong. And I need to know what's going wrong. So I was just waiting for him to ask, and that's not what I was getting. What I was getting was, you're never going to be, you're not going to make it because this is going to be your permanent record and this and the other. And then just made me feel worse about myself. And even the more so, like I said, I'm used to functioning, and I'm used to that anyway. So because remember, like, I'm gonna tell you something right here. Elisa is the one baby, you don't really have to beat me up because I'm beating myself up. I beat myself up worse than, and people beat me up, don't get me wrong, but I still beat this baby. I beat me up way more. Like, I'm very, very excruciating hard on myself. And we're working on it as of today because it's not, I don't need to be that hard. But it's hard. Remember I told you there's levels to this stuff. So I have come far, but I have a far way to go. But I beat myself up tremendously. Like, baby, by the time you get to people start to beat me up, I'm already bloody. Okay, so with all that being said, my dad was telling me that, you're not going to make it, you're not going to be able to get a good job, and different things like this, and it made me even worse and beat myself even worse, and I wasn't able to function even more so. It wasn't until I did actually have my teacher who asked me, "Are you okay?" Because she saw and knew that this was not me. And then even have the conversation with my dad, he even understood the more so, and said, "You know what? I'm going to make it so she won't fail." And it was that helped me out, right? Because all I wanted was someone to understand me. All I wanted was someone to understand that Elisa have triggers. She has anxiety, she has insecurity, she has issues, she has problems that Elisa feels. She gets angry, she's scared. Like, she's not this person who just walk around and just, like, got it all together. She does not. And just ask me and I can tell you, but why do you not? And why is it the fact that you just assume that she doesn't have it? If you have it, why do you think that I don't have it? You think I'm not a human being all of a sudden? So all I wanted, so this was me really digging into this month. These 2 months was really me digging into that. It was hard. It was painful, but I didn't care. I welcomed every test. I welcomed every feeling. I welcomed everything. It was hard. It was hard. Baby, it was excruciating hard. But I said, we got to be, and I just kept saying, everyone who knows me, who's around me, they just heard me, kept saying, "I got to be secure tomorrow." That's what I kept saying. I got to be secure tomorrow. I got to get this thing together. With tears in my eyes, I'm going to get, like, I was a blubbering mess, like, every single day because all these triggers was coming up. But I didn't care because we got to go. And then people I was like, no, we got to do it. Like, I was serious about this thing because I have to be secure by tomorrow. I can't stay here. I kept telling people, I can't stay here. That's what I kept saying. I can't stay here. And it was hard. I mean, it was so painful because of why, the whys, why you feel this way, Elisa, why are you here, Elisa, those hurt so bad. Why you think you gotta, why you see, and then it's like, all right, we're not gonna run this time. We used to running all the time, or we're not we're not running, we're staying still, okay? Like it it was very, very hard. But I had to really, really dig deep. I had to really, really take a self audit, and I had to really understand the shift because of like, okay, we're moving, and that's what the podcast. Because as I was going through it, and I'm telling people they was, they wanted more because we only got about 10 minutes at work and things like that, and so that's when the podcast started. Because as I really was digging deep to the journey of, because it's all about being clay, allowing God to shape and mold you, because He had to basically break me down and reshape me and remold me, because the person that I was horrible. Like, it wasn't good. I cannot function and survive in the things and thrive in the things of God with all this in here. I mean, you can't do this. He had to break me, and it was not easy. He had to shape me. He had to put me in the kiln. He had to do a lot, and it wasn't easy. But we was like, come on, let's go, God. We got to go. We got to go. We can't stay here. We cannot stay here. And so with all that being said, tune in for continuing on 2024 was a lot. Okay, we just got to June. So continue to tune in for the rest of 2024. 2025, and then eventually finally 2026. And so until the next time, first of all, I'm gonna leave you with with a challenge to really, if any of these relate, like, are you the real person, or are you just functioning at your false identity, right? Did you just get triggered and just shaped a person around that and just say, this is who I really am, right? Think about that. Think about it. And don't go by, now for those who are in God, okay? Because I can only talk to those who are believers. I can't talk to, but for those who are in God, allow Him to really show you and tell you who you really are. Because obviously you have to understand, we lie to ourselves. And the I is a lie. So begin to say, God, show me who I really am. Who did you really create me to be? Okay? For everyone else, you begin to just look at yourself, whoever your God is, even if you your own God, you begin to look at yourself and to see if that's really you. Because you might be that one in that relationship that is the reason why it's not working. So figure yourself out, right? Begin to really examine yourself and see who you really are in all your relationships. So with all that being said, and I'm leaving with you, understand that you are loved, not just a little, but greatly. Not just today, but forever. Not just by some, but by the one who created you in His love. And guess what? He's not the only one. We love you unconditionally, and there is absolutely, absolutely nothing you can do to change it. You are the potter, so I am a big clay.